Hey there, Mr. Reddit here. Welcome back to another episode of r/entitled Parent Stories. Our first story we'll be reading today. Psycho Karen gets kicked out of our hotel. After that, am I the jerk for banning my former mother-in-law from my house? And after that, be a jerk to fast food staff? Not while I'm here. Now for every thumbs up this video gets, one Karen gets kicked out of the hotel. But where will I go? So please smash that like button. And if you're new, subscribe and turn on notifications for new stories from Reddit every single day. Psycho Karen gets kicked out of our hotel. Good evening, class. I hope we're all ready for today's lesson. Today, we're going to learn how to get kicked out of a hotel. Now, for the two big jerks in this lesson, we will call them Karen and Kelly, because these are some of the most entitled jerks I think I've ever met. It all started when I came into my normal work shift. It was a normal start to my shift. Manager gut punching me, and my GM asking why we hit each other. I mean, why not? When my manager left, something minor happened that needed a detailed note. While doing that, Karen came into the building. Karen, my key isn't working, and that jerk from this morning made it worse. Oh my, I thought to myself. Me, oh, I'm sorry for that, ma'am. I can remake that for you. I just need an ID, and I don't have an ID. It's in my room, and I'm locked out of my room. This is BS. Do your job better. She turned around and went down the hall. She was staying on the bottom floor, and as she was walking, she yelled at me, "Forget you." Oh my, lovely. I heard her knocking on her room door. Her sister Kelly was in there. So I go to the back and text both of my managers about what happened. They said if Karen comes back and is doing the same thing, put my foot down and tell her not to talk to me like that or she will be removed. Cool, simple, love it, awesomeness. Karen comes back. She exits her room, slams, and I mean slams that door, and comes in the lobby screaming. Me, ma'am, do not talk to me like that. If you continue, you will be removed from the hotel. Karen, I am talking to you however I want to talk to you. I am the customer. Me, do not talk to me like that at all. Now please hand me your ID so I can remake your keys for you. No, you're going to listen to me, and I'm going to tell you how to do your job. Because I was a manager at a hotel. Me, do not talk to me like that again. If you do it one more time, you will be removed from the hotel. This is your last warning. Karen, you are being mean to me. Make my keys now. Me, ma'am, Karen. No. Shut up. I am talking, you hear me? Do not interrupt me. I'm really holding my tongue now. Karen, that is what I thought. This is why my keys don't work. The jerk this morning didn't remake both of my keys at the same time. So explain to me, since this one isn't working now, but the other one does. Me, so that key in your hand was working the whole time since my coworker remade it? Karen, you're not going to apologize to me? I was done being nice. Me, I'm not apologizing to you at all. I didn't do anything to you at all. You literally came in here screaming and cussing at me over your key. Give me your ID, give me the keys, so you can go to your room and leave me alone. No, apologize to me now, you hear me? Me, ID please. Stop interrupting me. ID. No, listen to me. I will listen once you give me your ID. She gives me the ID, I make her keys, I give her the keys. I'm ignoring her now. Karen, your parents didn't raise you right. Who talks to a customer how you do? You're a poor excuse of a person. I turn to walk off to text my managers. Karen, wow, really? You interrupted me and everything? Now you're ignoring me? I am trying to say sorry to you. Worst apology ever. She kept yelling at me from the front desk. I was texting my managers about everything. It got to the point I turned the corner and said, "Go to your room now. I'm not talking to you at all." Karen gets angry and starts cussing and yelling more, and goes to her room and slams the door. GM calls me. Me, Meow Hotel, how can I help you? GM, transfer me to that room now. Me, okie dokie. Not sure what happened after that, but my manager called me next. Manager, what exactly did you say to that woman? Me, I told her to stop talking to me how she is. Told her if she doesn't stop, she will be removed from the hotel. I kept asking for ID, and she kept screaming like a 5-year-old. Manager, you said nothing inappropriate to her? Me, no, why? Manager, she said she recorded you and that she has evidence of you getting violent and saying inappropriate things to her. Dumbfounded, I tried really hard not to giggle. Me. She just dug her own grave. Manager. Yeah, it sounds like it. Transfer me to the room. I transferred. 10 minutes later, I get a call from our customer service complaint line. Kelly in the room called them. The woman who was dealing with the case said, she said you attacked her sister over the counter and said very inappropriate things to her. I told the lady to give me a case management number and pass it on to the managers. This is in their hands now. I texted it to them and told them what the casewoman said. GM calls me back and said, I want them out now. Heck no, I am pulling up the security cameras. I transferred her to the room. Manager called me next and was ranting about how she should have kicked out that woman earlier this morning. This wasn't the first issue with her, I guess. GM calls me back and said they have 15 minutes to get out. She told them about the cameras. She said Karen started yelling and cussing at her and sometimes was just screaming, which I could hear down the hallway. GM told them if they come to the desk to talk to me, GM was currently watching the cameras, watching them leave. She told them if they come to the desk to talk to me, she would be calling police for harassment and disturbance of the peace, and she will throw trespassing on top of it because GM and manager told them leave multiple times each. They went out the back doors, never stopped by the desk. Kelly and Karen quietly left, and I sat in the back room singing show tunes and doing homework. Was I upset over her yelling and screaming at me? Oh yeah, big time. When you yell and scream at me like she did, I started violently shaking. I was violently shaking and in the employee's bathroom trying not to throw up because, Moral of this story, don't be a jerk and don't do drugs. I don't know if drugs were involved, just don't do them though. I love you all get an A+. Speaking of hotels, what's the worst hotel you've ever stayed at? Please let us know. Probably the time I stayed at the Hilton. The room didn't even have a jacuzzi. Am I the jerk for banning my former mother-in-law from my house? My former mother-in-law is 52 years old, and I am 32 years old. Back when I was 23, I married. I got my then-girlfriend pregnant. We married soon after, and she gave birth to our daughter. 2 years after, my wife got extremely sick and passed soon after, leaving me with our daughter. I decided to move several states away back to my own parents, as I work a lot, and my parents volunteered to help me with my daughter. This went on for a while until I made a good promotion and had enough money saved up to get my own house half an hour away from my parents. And since then, watching my daughter during the day while I am at work is split between the nanny I hired and my parents. Before you think I'm taking advantage, my parents insist on watching her. My daughter is 8 now, in case you wonder, and I generally work 8 to 6. My former mother-in-law decided to move to the town I live because she wants to be close to her granddaughter/my daughter. I initially had no issue with this. After all, my wife was her only child, and my daughter her only grandchild. I only started having an issue when she actually moved. Since she moved here, she was at my house pretty much all day, including when I got home after work and the weekends. She would even be there when my daughter was at school and no one was home to clean. After having multiple conversations and arguments with her where I stated I was of the opinion her behavior was inappropriate and she was crossing boundaries, she finally toned it down for a while. However, slip-ups were and are common. Last week was the last straw for me. Since the past year and a half, I have started dating again and met a woman. However, due to lockdown, we have not been able to spend much time together. With everything opening up here, I invited her over after asking my parents to watch my daughter. When we were fooling around on the couch, my ex-mother-in-law let herself in and, of course, without calling, knocking, or asking, and proceeded to lose her crap and accused me of cheating and disrespecting my deceased wife. I finally had enough. I went over, snatched my key from her, forced her out of my home, and told her she is no longer welcome in my house. She really has no one else, and several people, including my parents, have weighed in, asking me to change my mind. I am not sure if I am the jerk here. Well, what do you think? Is OP the jerk, or is his mother-in-law? Please let us know. Oh, I can't wait to see what our audience thinks of this one. Converted from salary to hourly. Best decision ever. I worked for a mid-sized fashion company with around 150 retail stores nationwide as a maintenance and safety coordinator. 4 months into the job, my manager quit and I picked up everything and was doing fine on my own for years, and I was the only person in charge of maintaining the stores and the alarm systems in all the stores. I did get a pay bump, but not a promotion in title. I put my contact number on every store's emergency contact list just in case the primary contacts, usually the store managers, don't pick up their phones in case of emergencies, and the store managers almost always refuse to pick up calls during off hours, so my phone would ring at least 2 to 3 times every night. 99% of the times are false alarm, usually caused by window brake sensors getting tripped by vibration from a big truck passing by, or a leaf hitting the window. I hated it, but had to do it because if no one on the emergency contact list picks up the phone, the alarm company automatically calls the police for dispatch, and there are penalties for false alarms, ranging from $50 to $200 per incident after 2 to 3 freebies, varies by location. In 2017, Department of Labor passed a law requiring all employees making under a certain amount of money to be converted to hourly so they can earn overtime. My salary was $800 short of making the cut. I brought it up with HR, stating that an hourly schedule would actually interfere with my duties, and an $800 raise in pay would make everything easier. And HR simply said, "Well, that's too bad, and we can't do anything about it at the moment." Well, okay. After that conversation, I put my phone on mute and stopped caring about anything outside of my 9 to 5. In hindsight, life was actually so much easier and better that way, and I'm not sure why I even wanted to stay on salary. Months go by without any serious issues except for the penalties for false alarms starting to pile up. One day, accounting and operations brought me into the office asking what those costs were. I told them what they were, and operations sent out a memo reminding all store managers that safety is of critical importance and they have to pick up calls from alarm companies. No one bothered asking why there was a surge of these additional costs, and I didn't care enough to remind them that it was because of me. Few more months go by, and one morning I woke up to almost 20 missed calls on my cell. Apparently, one of our Florida stores was broken into the night before at around 3 a.m. The store manager tried to get a hold of me because I was the one in charge of requesting/dispatching vendors for things like emergency board up. After an hour of trying to get a hold of me, she eventually started calling up everybody on the hierarchy for help, and I had 6 missed calls from the senior VP of operations alone. Eventually, the director of constructions was able to get a crew to board up the store, but that was almost 3 hours later and everyone was royally upset. Unsurprisingly, the second I stepped into the office, I was called into the office with all the senior management and HR and were asked why I was not there to take care of it. And I simply replied, because I already clocked out. The senior VP of operations was obviously not pleased with that answer and said it was my duty and I needed to be on standby at all times to handle these situations, even during off hours. To which I stated, "Oh, so I should be on call then. In that case, I'll have to work with accounting to get properly compensated for my on-call hours once we have a schedule established." The room went silent and nothing came out of the rather short meeting. Later that afternoon, HR called me into the office again, asking whether I'd like to become salaried again with a pay bump. I said I'll take the pay bump, but I'd rather stay hourly, and walked out. They didn't give me the pay bump. Edit. Sorry, I didn't provide what happened next, so here's some closure. I was put on call for a few weeks because it was summer at the time of the incident, and HVAC systems kept failing over the weekends in our Florida stores. And again, I was the one to dispatch vendors to fix them. Money was great during that period. Eventually, the director of construction was put on as the emergency contact for off-hour issues, and he absolutely hated it. I left the company last year. They had to scramble to get a replacement and hired a maintenance supervisor with an MBA in political science, but no related experience. My last contact from the company was the supervisor asking me what the login credentials were for all the 150 stores' alarm systems. I didn't reply. Am I the jerk for unintentionally insulting a friend's parenting? So this argument/discussion has come up more than a few times with my friends and family, but this time it really went insane. I'm a mother of a 2-year-old boy, and most of my friends/close family are the same age, early 30s or older, so most of us have kids. We have all been really open with one another, and we all know that most of us have different political and religious beliefs. It really is a big melting pot of a bunch of different backgrounds, so we try to just tread lightly. But we do debate on topics quite often, and we have always stayed cordial. Tonight, one friend, T, male 31, asked when we were going to put our son into daycare/preschool, as he is home with a nanny while I work from home and my husband works outside the house. We mentioned him going to a specific preschool that is pretty well known in our town after he turns 3. One of the moms, we will call her Jenny, piped up and said we should take him to X school, which in all fairness is highly rated, but extremely religious school. Think set prayer times, ancient building with scary stone things, Bible study, etc. I said thanks, but we won't be introducing son's name to religion until he is old enough and expresses the desire to learn on his own or if he wants to be religious. I did not think this would come as a shock to anyone. They all know we are agnostic. We have discussed it plenty of times. However, Jenny went completely hysterical and said she couldn't believe I would insult her that way, and in public as well. I asked her what she meant, and she said I was implying she was brainwashing her kids by sending them to religious schools. I tried to stay calm and just tried to explain that we have different beliefs. She very strongly believes her kids' souls are at risk if they are not baptized and or brought up in church. I told her every parent has the right to try to do what they believe is best for their kids, but she just wouldn't let it go and kept trying to convince me on why I was wrong and how she was a better mother because she was thinking about her kids' future. At this point, I had seriously lost my patience and told her maybe she should think long and hard about why she is so convinced I am saying she is brainwashing her kids when I said nothing of the sort and said, maybe you are projecting what you already think of yourself. And then I left with my husband. My husband thinks I was on point and that she deserved the comments after how crazy she got about a school choice, but the friends group itself is pretty much split down the middle. Half think I went too far and insulted her beliefs. The other half think she shouldn't have approached the subject knowing we weren't religious. I think I may be the jerk with how harsh my last comment was, and I know my temper was starting to stir up towards the end of it. But I also think you shouldn't ask for an opinion you don't really want. Wanting to get some unbiased feedback from both sides of the fences on this one. Update. Wow, this blew up overnight. I woke up to a text from Jenny that said, "Sorry about last night, please call me when you get the chance." I did and we talked. As I figured, this blow-up of hers wasn't even about me. Their oldest daughter is 9 and apparently went to a family birthday event where her oldest cousin, 11, male, told her she was dumb and just a little kid to still believe in God, and told her he was made up and called her names and I guess lots of other fun comments a kid bully would say. It all culminated in her daughter asking why she goes to church if her cousin X doesn't and if she could stop so she wasn't a freak. Jenny and her husband apparently have been struggling with reaffirming their faith with her on listening to her request. This all happened a few days before last night, so apparently she was projecting quite a bit and went overboard. She apologized and was sincere and I accepted. All is good now. She even asked my viewpoint as my mom was Methodist but my dad agnostic and how I grew up and was able to share how they raised me to decide for myself what I believed. Overall, a good resolution to a crappy fight. Falsely accused me of cheating? Well, I'll ruin the curve. So this was back in high school, 10th grade, honors chemistry. First day of class, the teacher spelled out the rules and some info. 1. If you had an A going into the final exam, you did not have to take the final. The final was so tough, it was graded on a curve. 75 was the highest grade ever in 20 years. 3. So, if the highest grade was 75, then everyone would get plus 25 added to their score. 4. Also, if you were caught cheating, you received a 0 for that test and got in trouble with the dean. 5. Talking during a test was okay, as long as it was not sharing answers. Weird rule, I'll admit. No problem, I thought. I love chemistry. I'll have an A going into the final and I will not have to take the dreaded final. It did sound scary after all. Trouble started with the first exam. I finished. It was not that hard and I was bored waiting for class to end. Being an immature 15-year-old, I whispered to the person next to me, "Look at this." I showed him my calculator, old days, which had numbers 7734, which upside down looked like heck. I said, "That's what this test was." A few days later, I got my test back. Cheating, 0. Please see me after class. Long story short, that heck joke was the reason. I took it to the spineless dean, who rescinded the 15 days of detention. I was allowed to talk after all, but did not remove the 0. The teacher even admitted at the disciplinary hearing that he knew I did not cheat. He said I had a 100 on that test, and no one else did. But too bad, rules are rules. So, the rest of that semester, I worked my butt off, and a week before the final, it was clear I would still fall 1 or 2 percentage points below an A. I'd have to take the terrible final exam, all because of my immature stupidity and that 0 for non-cheating. Now, I am all for rules, but I am also for common sense and fairness. Making me take that test was really about the teacher's ego, pride, and saving face. He admitted as much. He was actually still upset I did not get 15 days of detention for, by his admission, not cheating. I first talked to the principal. I offered to receive a B for the class and not take the final because I knew it would help others with the better curve. I did not want an A with other students mad at me. Principal said too bad. Okay then. I then approached the teacher and said, "Look, you know I deserve an A." He nodded his head in agreement. "If you make me take the final, I will get at least 95% and I will kill the curve for anyone else." I was a bit crappy for sure, but I knew I could make it back up. He said, "Tough. And you won't get above 75, Mr. Smarty Pants. No one ever has." Challenge accepted and malicious compliance initiated. I studied as usual, and I told everyone else that there was not going to be a curve for the final, and don't blame me for what is going to happen to your grades. I am being forced to take this test. Before the final exam, some of the students who had to take their final pleaded with the teacher. They had no doubt in my abilities as a curve wrecker, but he was one stubborn jerk. No dice. I got a 98 on the final. Everyone got 2 points for the curve adjustments, which in the past would have been at least 25 points. Kids were upset, parents were upset, meetings full of shouting and swearing were held. Through it all, I made sure no one was mad at me. After all, I told everyone this was going to happen before it happened. The rest of the year, the principal, dean, and teacher were all upset with me for my stunt. Huh? They had to deal with a lot of irate parents, I guess. 15 years later, I found out that the 75 max score held up every year before and after me, except of course for my year. So in the end, about 100 innocent students were penalized so a teacher and administration could save face. I got my A and ended up class salutatorian. Edit. I did feel bad that some classmates became collateral damage in this drama, but I made sure they understood that there were two easy solutions. Just give me a B or let me out of the final requirement that the teacher and admin rejected. All the decision makers had a chance to avoid the outcome. After all, I was not going to purposely tank the final just to improve the curve. Have you ever had a teacher who was a real jerk? If so, what did they do? Please let us know. Oh, I still have nightmares about my kindergarten teacher. Am I the jerk for overreacting over a cake? I, 23, female, am living with my boyfriend, 27, male. I've definitely gained the lockdown 15. So for 2021, I decided to go on a little health journey to lose those couple extra pounds. My birthday came around the corner, and one of my friends made me this lovely lunchbox cake. It was a tiny Earl Grey cake, about 4 inches in diameter, with little heart-shaped strawberries and frosting frogs holding signs that said, "Happy Birthday." It made my little heart happy. I took it home and decided to eat the next day, as I was having digestive issues at the moment and I wanted to enjoy it on date night with my boyfriend. It was the perfect little add-on for a cheat day too. My boyfriend came home, saw the cake in the fridge, and asked if he could have a slice. I said no, and that I wanted to eat it the next day, and that he could have some the next day too. He made little comments here and there, sulked, and after I continuously said no, went into his room to play video games for the rest of the night. When I went downstairs this morning, the cake was gone, and there were dirty dishes in the sink with the little signs of happy birthday crumpled and soggy on top. The whole cake was eaten. Obviously, I knew that my boyfriend was the culprit. I confronted my boyfriend, and it didn't go well for a lack of better word. It basically boiled down to, "If you would have just let me have one slice, I wouldn't have eaten the whole thing without you." He said that this was his way of getting back at me for being so selfish and stingy. I tried rebutting and arguing that it was my birthday cake and I wanted to eat my own birthday cake. He still didn't understand why the cake was so important because my birthday was celebrated a week ago. He even joked that he was helping me out since I was on a diet anyway. I was getting upset, and of course, being the crybaby I am, I shed a few tears. He didn't really like that, so he started chastising me a bit more, calling me immature. So instead of staying home for our date night, I decided to stay at my friend's place. I told him that I was upset at him at the moment and that he was making me more upset with this conversation, so I was leaving for the night so we could both cool down. He's now saying that I'm a jerk for leaving and overreacting over cake. My friend said that I'm not overreacting at all and that I was in the right for being upset because it was my birthday cake. I'm really conflicted. I'm definitely upset about the situation, but after all, it was just cake. Maybe I shouldn't have started a fight and should have just let it go. Maybe I should have just stayed and talked it out for conflict resolution's sake. Am I the jerk for leaving and overreacting over a cake? I can't be hired directly? You don't get my system. So my backstory. When I was about 20-ish, I worked for a company named for a fruit that didn't sell fruit. Actually, I worked for a primary supplier for them who was doing the repair division in a new location. Cast, we've got myself, we've got supervisor, we've got lead. So I started in a smaller position and quickly moved up to repair evaluations. Basically, if the thing worked when we got it, but not after the repair, I need to find out why and correct it. Management had to manually search every device in an Excel sheet every day to find the devices I worked on. I took it on myself to design and implement an automatic system. Given I was a temp at the time, they extended my employment with the promise of direct hire due to this design. It worked flawlessly for close to 2 years. Right around the time I was due to figure out if I was being brought up or not, Lead starts playing around and avoiding the situation. I contact Lead multiple times a week for the next month with little to no reply. I spoke with Super after Lead started ignoring me and not replying. I was getting desperate at this time to know whether I need to look for new work soon or if I would have a great job for years to come. Finally, I had enough. I rebuilt the system I designed with a kill switch, so to speak, and hid it in the system. I emailed this new system to ask the managers, including Lead and Super. They all liked the new update and praised my ingenuity. I let them know that I was the only one who knew how to design and operate this, but would love to be brought up to permanent so I could train someone else if I were to take vacations or something of the like. This was ignored. Edit. In light of learning, I could be more specific. Here's an explanation of this kill switch. It's an Excel sheet that linked to another daily generated file from the repair division. I created the link and was/am Microsoft certified in Office. Don't know if it's still a thing. It was back then. Haven't needed to be certified in forever now. So I knew fun workarounds and tricks. My email is tied into the system, so it would automatically scrape the required info into another sheet, which was then parsed even more into other sheets. It's long and complex, but did exactly what was needed for the people who needed different sets of data. My email was tied into the design very specifically in specific places. The data emailed out, if you're familiar with Excel, doesn't usually include the formulas to reach what's shown in the boxes. I ensured it wasn't as the higher-ups like to copy-paste to their emails onwards. Easy for them, easy for me. Finally, my last week was here, and I reminded Lead and Super I haven't been moved to permanent status. I don't have a replacement for this position, to which I received the usual, "It's not that hard. We know the system, and anyone could do it." So my last day, they have me start bundling out my last report and to close out my email and file system. The kill switch was the part that was wiped in the device reset before I was allowed to collect my last check. The wipe is to ensure I haven't linked my provided computer to an outside source, I guess. Never quite knew exactly why. They wiped my computer, took my badge, and ensured I wasn't sneaking any devices out and wished me well. Fast forward a few days, when Super calls me, asking why the file system isn't working after I left. I reminded him that it was built on my company-provided device, and I hadn't been allowed to teach anyone else the system before I left. The silence as the wheels clicked in place was like hearing heaven itself. He immediately hung up and called back, asking me to come back full-time with benefits immediately. I had already taken a new job, interviewed the day before, and accepted the position on the spot. The money was way better, and was to start the next week. I told Super his offer had to beat my new hourly rate and effective the next day or no dice. He never called me back, and from friends who still work there, that system had never been fixed, and nobody can figure it out enough to reverse engineer it. That was close to 12 years ago now. I'm pretty proud of myself. Am I the jerk for telling my close friend she shouldn't have another baby? I'm 25, female, and my friend Pam, 24, female, has a son, 2, male, who I love dearly. Pam and I have known each other since we were 15, and we had similar dreams. We are both in a group of friends that are tightly knit. Pat is on again and off again with her baby's dad, and they had an explosive argument, so she stayed at my place for the week. I was surprised during the stay because she didn't really watch her son. He was bumping his head on the walls, playing with the toilet, and playing on the stairs. I watched him, but when I had to go to class, I handed him to Pam, and most of the time, she had let him loose again so she could be on her phone or whatever. She mentioned she wanted to have another baby with her boyfriend, and she made it seem that because she had nothing else to do, she should give her son a sibling. She asked for my opinion, and when I asked her if she wanted my honest opinion, she said yes. I told her she shouldn't, because she still lives with her 85-year-old grandmother. She isn't financially stable, and her relationship with her boyfriend is rocky. I told her bringing another life to this world is a huge responsibility, and she mentioned a time last year when I tried getting her to go back to school when I tried giving her my study guides for anatomy and physiology during my undergrad days. I was confused why she brought that up, and she said that I act like I'm better than everyone. I only tried encouraging her to go back to school because she admitted she was jealous that everyone else in our group of friends were achieving their goals. I assured her I was not trying to put her down, and she said that I told my other friend that I wanted to have a baby with my fiancé once I finished my master's degree and passed my boards. I was like, okay. I never applied any of that to her, but it's true. I wanted to have mental and financial stability before having kids. She started to cry and insisted on leaving. I tried to get her to stay and leave in the morning when the roads were clear, but she pushed me away and left. She's telling our friends that I'm a snobby jerk. I called her and texted her that I was sorry if my opinion hurt her, and my opinion was something she didn't even have to consider because she's an adult, and she just said that I'm a cold-hearted jerk. Am I the jerk here? I've tried to talk to her about the possibility that she is experiencing depression, but she tells me to mind my own business. Well, what do you think? Is OP the jerk or is Pam? Please let us know. Sometimes the truth hurts, baby mama. Please come watch this video next. You will love it. And huge shout out to our newest official channel members, Mickey and Fatima. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. Join as a channel member today and we'll give you a special shout out in our next video. And to have us make any kind of video you'd like us to, just come visit us on Fiverr. Link pinned in the comments below.